Hi, I'm Cindy, and I'm a domestic violence survivor. I was in a 23-year abusive marriage. I have 4 children, and I came from a Christian family where divorce wasn't an option, so I stayed stuck for a very long time. I first met Joyce at a global awareness dinner. I sat next to her. I knew who she was because I had heard her speak at Faith Lift. Well, I started telling her about my daughter's abusive husband and was getting really worked up. I had been out of my marriage for a few years and thought I was over it, and I hadn't realized the pain and the hurt I was still harboring. Well, Joyce heard that, and she told me gently that I was the one that needed to go to her class, and she invited me to a Thanksgiving celebration they were holding the next week. Well, I went. And there, I met women who had been through the same insanity that I had been through. Women like me. I had been praying for my husband for years and working on my marriage and trying to make things good, but I was constantly confronted with arrogant verbal abuse and psychological manipulation and physical abuse where he deemed it necessary to get his own way. Domestic violence is progressive. At the beginning, it was like controlling me about what I wore and where I went, and in a bunch of little baby steps, it became all-encompassing, where he had total control over everything I was doing. And his loathing and demeaning constant criticism of me left me feeling worthless. The emotional abuse, by times I would wish I'd rather have him break my arm. It would have hurt less. People don't realize that the invisible wounds are worse than the visible ones. And the gaslighting, where he'd deny things he said and then twist things around I said and then get furious, it made me unable to trust my memory and my perspective. People think that women get into abusive relationships because they have low self-esteem. I had great self-esteem. But his continual undermining me made me confused and questioned my confidence and my self-identity. The physical abuse was made to keep me in fear of him. It wasn't so much hitting as it was pushing or picking me up and throwing me across the room or picking me up by the throat or throwing things at me. But you see, it's all about power and control. And he needed me to be in fear of him so that he had control. This is the person who was supposed to support me and love me and protect me. But instead, he was the person I needed protection from. This all left me horribly depressed and with no voice. But God heard my cry. And through a series of events he led me out of my marriage, I felt like I was rescued. I felt I was released from prison for good behavior. I didn't think I'd ever be happy again, but I am. Hagar's sisters gave me hope. The bonding connection that I felt with the group of sisters from the first time I went was incredible. It helped me face what I had been through so my healing could happen. The camaraderie of being with people who get it from an experiential point of view is life-changing. I felt validated and heard. My friends had tried to be empathetic, but they didn't really understand. And that validation was needed for my healing. I learned a lot about domestic violence, the mind of the abuser, the patterns of power and control, the cry of the abuser, the belief system of the abuser, tools for my safety, how to have boundaries and safe relationships. Christian women are often apprehensive to go to domestic violence support groups because they're afraid they'll be told to leave the marriage, and they're not ready, and they're not sure yet, so they don't get the ammunition they need to survive. They want to hear from God. They want God's perspective on their situation. This is what makes Hagar's sisters unique. Women are relieved when they come to our groups and we tell them they're the expert on their life. It's their decisions and their timing. We look at the Bible, see what God says about abuse and about everything. We pray and we talk about God's love for them. We want them to feel empowered and supported and safe and loved. I've been part of Hagar Sisters since 2008, and I've had the privilege of seeing many, many women transform their lives. I've had women come to my group who at the beginning, they can't hold their heads up. They cry through the meetings. They're so hurt they can't speak. But through the semester, we share our pain and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and we pray for each other. And God shows up and heals and transforms. Hagar Sisters provides a safe place for this to happen. I've heard women say that this is the only place where they can be totally honest about what's going on in their lives. There is so much power here. God's power. I have been so blessed to be involved with Hagar Sisters, and I'm on the board now, and it's truly given my pain a purpose. Thank you.